No, don't do. Don't point it at my face. Hello, I'm Jack Stoney, and went 9-3 to top 16 Birmingham at 12th place with Viserai, the unplayable hero after Dusk Till Dawn. So my deck played Rosetta Thorn as its weapon in every matchup because that is the best weapon by far. Then in every matchup I also played Grasp of the Arknight. No, wait, that's wrong. No, go back. I also played Grasp of the Arknight in every matchup except for against Icelander and Kano, which I played Vexing Quillhand for the Arcane Barrier.
Makes sense.
And then I played Spellbound Creepers in every matchup just because it's the best boots and it just seemed to fit in, like, as being able to use it versus Icelander and Kano as well, rather than playing a 4th AB. And then I played Aether Ironweave in the aggressive matchups where it's a race and you need the one block, but the 2 resources is very valuable. Then I also ran Dyadic Carapace as 2 AB into Wizards, and then it also just blocks for 3, so it can be good at blocking breakpoints versus Viserai and decks that like present a lot of one-hits.
So do you play that into Lexi or no?
No.
Okay.
I play Aether Ironweave into Lexi, just because the 2 resources matters a lot, especially since they give you Frostbites off of Winter's Bites. And then I play Crown of Providence in matchups like Bravo and Azalea, where blocking out like very efficiently matters, and against dominated attacks that might skip your whole turn, like Red on the Ledger or Crippling Crush or Spinal Crush. And then lastly, as a helmet, I play Crown of Dominion in every other matchup other than Bravo and Azalea, and it just makes the gold token, which allows me to play cash-ins for free to draw 2 cards to push out a big 30 damage turn.
Okay.
Then in the main deck, I play 6 Spellblade Assaults of 3 blues and then 3 reds, just because they're a very efficient attack. They're 2 for 6, and then they combo with Mordred Tide, just make it being able to get another Mordred Tide trigger, basically. And then it also is good with Mauvrian Skies, which I run 9 of. I run 3 blues, 3 yellows, and 3 reds. And then Mauvrian Skies are good with all my 2-cost attacks, which I run a lot. And then it just enables you to use Rosetta Thorn after pitching a blue to play a 2-cost after it. And then I also play 9 Trill of Skullform, which just made sense after running 9 Mauve. And the yellow Shrills, which most people don't run, I find very useful against Lexi, just as another resource card, and it's another block 3 attack, and I really like it as it works out with pitching for creepers as well if you play like a Swarming Gloomveil hand or something like that. So it's just very useful as just a resource card, and then it's just a good 2-cost most of the time. And then I play 5 Deathly Duets, 3 reds and 2 blues. The red one is just very good at being against Warmonger's Diplomacy. You can pitch a red and a blue, or 2 reds even, if you had a bad hand anyways, to come in for 6 and make 2 rune chants, which is a lot better than having a Shrill or something like that doesn't get buffed unless you make an aura, which you can't really do around Warmongers. And then just as a blue, it's just another Spellblade Assault pretty much. And then the other blues, I play 3 Become the Arknights. It's a Viserai staple that blocks for 3 and costs 0, and then can fetch anything in your deck. So it can fetch a Shrill if you need it and have all non-attacks, or it can get like a Mauvrian Skies if you have a bunch of attacks other than the Become the Arknight. And then Lead the Charge, I play 3 blue Lead the Charge just because it is basically another blue Mauvrian Skies most of the time. Being able to play that, and then a Shrill, it just basically does the same thing as Mauvrian Skies, but just another copy of it because Mauvrian's probably is the enabler of the deck
For the Prism matchup.
for every match. Then I play one blue Vexing Malice just as another attack to balance out the number of attacks and non-attacks in the main board. And then it's also just a good finisher against decks that only run one Arcane Barrier, which there are a lot, and then against Viserai. And then I play one This Round's on Me just as a good blue, but I play it main board, and I have two more in the sideboard, but it's just a blue block 3 basically that in the main board that you rarely ever play, except for in the matchups where it's really good. And then I play 3 Mordred Tide just because it enables really big turns. Like your big cash-in turns are very good with Mordred Tides played after them since you already have a 6-card hand or even more. Then I play 3 Revel just as it's a very good card. It's 0 for 5 damage basically because it'll trigger Viserai as well when you play it because you have had to play a non-attack before it. And then I play 3 Swarming Gloomveil just as it's the best 0-cost attack. So you can play it on like a Mauvrian Skies and Shrill turn, and then it's just very good. And you can also get it off of Rattlebones, which is a nice 2-card hand with a blue and Rattlebones with a Swarming Gloomveil in your graveyard is 8 damage. So that's pretty good. And then I play 2 Rattlebones just because the third one, I noticed that if you draw 2 Rattlebones in the same hand, it's like really clunky. So I've only played 2 main board, and then I sideboard in a third one against the matchups where it really matters. And then I play 1 Spellblade Strike, just as it works with the yellow, Shrill, and like all the yellows in my deck it works really nice with because I can Mauvrian Skies into that. The one issue with it is that Lead the Charge doesn't work with it, since it only costs 1. But I find it really useful. You can also pitch a blue to play, if you play a non-attack, then pitch a blue to play it. Then you can spend 1 to Creepers in like a Revel or something, and then you still have 1 left to Rosetta Thorn after it. And then I play 1 Amplify just as it's just a good like finisher that makes a Runechant on the back for the next turn. And then it's also a good target to get off of Rattlebones sometimes in weird scenarios, but it's mainly just another big attack in the main board that's like a basic, because it's most of the time it's just 2 cost for you. And then I play 1 Drawn to the Dark Dimension, which is very nice in most matchups. And then you can also get it off of Rattlebones, which is nice, and then it's very good after Spellblade Assaults or Deathly Duets, which I run many of. And then in the sideboard, I run 2 This Round's on Me's that I play versus Azuri, Katsu, and Fi, just because they have a limited number, Azuri has a limited number of attacks that she could do in a turn, so it doesn't really matter the extra card in their hand most of the time. They're probably just going to block with it, but it also nullifies the daggers. So if they don't have a go again attack, then the only attack they can only do 1 attack, and it'll be for 5, so it's easier to block out. And then I play 1 Read the Runes. I also play these versus Icelander and Lexi just as a blue block 3. And then...
So you never play those out into Lexi?
No.
Okay.
And then I play 1 of Read the Runes for some matchups where I go first and where setup is nice. So like versus Bravo, Azuri, and Dromai, I'd play the 1 of Read the Runes. And then I play Cash In. Cash In is in every matchup except for Bravo and Azalea, because I would play Crown of Providence instead of the Crown of Dominion. And then in the sideboard, I also have 3 Sonata Arcanics, because I don't like running it in every matchup, because I don't run it when I need a lot of 3 blocks to stop on hits. And with this deck, I find that blocking out efficiently on hits is very important because some of your hands are very bad every once in a while. And Sonata doesn't really help that much. But I do run it versus Dromai because it can be good versus Lost in Thought because they might take your only attack and then Sonata can get you a new one. And then I also run it versus just decks where I don't really want to block that much. Like against Bolton, it's good. Against, what else? There's a few. Against the Wizard, against Kano, I would run it. And like Icelander, I'd run it too. And then I have a third, Rattlebones in the sideboard that I play. It's a block 3 that's good, but I only play it when it would matter when it wouldn't really matter that I would have 2 in hand. So like when I would want to block, then I'd play that in my deck. And then 2 Rune Flashes are good versus the decks that play Warmonger's Diplomacy, since if I name War, then I can just play it. If I have Rune Chance left over from the previous turn, it's really good too, if they play it. And it's just basically another Swarming Gloomville on the turns, on Mordred Tide turns or anything like that. Then I play another Amplify the Arknight in matchups where I'd want to set up more and block. So then, because with my setup, I could play like a Spellblade Assault or a Deathly Duet and then make Rune Chance, so then I could play it for cheaper on the next turn, like after I Mauvrion Skies. And then it's also a popper and a Dromai, which is nice. And then other poppers that I run, I play 2 Runic Reclamations that I play versus Briar and Icelander mostly, but I play it in Dromai as a popper, but I play it in most of the matchups where I want to block just because it's an efficient block 3 that's just a 3 for 7 if I block with my 2 other cards. And
sometimes that's a 3 for 13. You get rid of a channel.
Even more. And then I played 3 Sink Below versus Azalea, Bravo, and Azuri and Arachne, just because the 4 breakpoint's really important versus Azuri and Arachne because it blocks out Leave No Witnesses really nicely and Surgical Extraction. And then it's also just good against Bravo and Azalea because if you arsenal it, then you can get around Dominate a little bit better. And then lastly, I run 3 Command and Conquers, and they're good versus Lexi because it can get rid of the double arsenal or make them block with 2 cards. And they don't run Crown of Providence, so they can't get around it, which is nice. And then that's it.
All right. And what did you lose to in the Calling, and what did you beat?
So I played 3 Briars, 3 Dromais, Bravo, and an Azalea, and and 2 Levias.
Ooh.
I think that's it. But so and then I won against both Azaleas. Oh, and I also played a Dash. I beat the Dash. I won against 2 of the Briars and lost to 1 in a really close game. And then I beat all 3 Dromais that I played, and I lost to the Bravo that I played, where I got like high rolled basically. The first turn 0, he dominated a Spinal Crush, and then I leaked a bunch of damage and couldn't really do anything on my turn. And then turn 2, I got CNC pummeled, and then turn 3, dominated Crippling Crushed. So I was way behind and didn't really have a turn for 3 turns at the start of the game. And then my other loss was my winning in the top 8 in the 12th round, which was versus Azalea, which I also died very early on due to a bunch of dominated attacks. And on 1 turn, he played 4 pump spells, with 2 of which being Lace with Bloodrot, and then Codex of Frailty to get back a 0 for 4 arrow. So he came in for 17, in total 21 damage with the Fonder.
Jeez.
And then I just died the next turn. But yeah.
Alright, is there any changes that you would make to the deck?
One change that I might make in the future is cutting Sonata entirely and replacing it with Runic Reckoning, just as a block 3 non-attack, and it can be good with your, like, if you don't have a Mauvrion Skies, it can be good, like, playing it, pitching a blue to play it, and then a Shrill, so that's like 3 cards for like 11 or 10 or 9, which is decent. And then it's just okay, but I don't know. I like that. I like Sonata more. When Sonata's good, it's really good, but when it doesn't work, it's really terrible. So I might switch to Runic Reckoning later, but
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jack. And we will be posting your information in terms of how to contact you in the description below. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.